What? A new video 3 days in a row? I think it's 3 days in a row. Okay, how does one get started with the best programming language? C++. Well, easy. You Google it. Dang, I just ruined my watch time by giving you the answer. Oh wait, I just ruined all of YouTube's watch time for all how-to videos. Okay, I guess this better be good if you're going to continue watching it. Okay, so I will explain in the quickest and most succinct, wonderful way ever. And at the end of this video, I'll show you how you can get this cool background I have. I don't know why I said that, but I guess I'm going to do it now, and maybe that'll actually make people watch. Because I know none of you are dedicated enough to actually program. That's rare. That's like 1 in a million. I feel like I'm the only person in the world other than like the rare. Never mind. Off topic. All right. So if you want to get started programming with C++ on Windows, you're going to need Visual Studio. It's free, Community Edition. You have a secondary option. You can use Cygwin, which sort of replicates a Linux terminal. Those are the main two ways. You either do it with Visual Studio or you do it with Cygwin and use pretty much like a Linux compiler. So if you're following, for example, if you're following a tutorial that says, here's how you get started, here's how you do stuff on Linux, you can go get Cygwin and install Cygwin, and you pretty much have a fake version of Linux, or at least the console. There are other options, there are other IDEs, there are other compilers. I'm not going to get into that. You probably just want to do Visual Studio or Cygwin. Just keep it simple here. And look how hard this is. Oh my God. Oh my God. So hard. Programming's so hard. How do I ever get started? Yeah, it's literally this simple. Like, it blows my mind when people ask me questions, because I'm like, do you have the internet? And they're like, of course I got the internet. It's like, what are you asking me for? I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know how to type. At least I hope. There you go. This is it. Community Edition. The other ones cost money. And yeah, communities for up to 3 people, I think, on a project. So if you're just getting started, you're not going to have more than 3 people anyway. Yeah, so you install it. And when Visual Studio, when you hit the installer, it's going to prompt you for some stuff. Just choose the C++ options. And look, getting started, building your first app. That's it. So the next step really is, oh God, how do I ever learn C++? How can I ever find anyone to teach me this difficult language? I don't know. Maybe you could just Google it like everything else. Oh God. So yeah, there you go. There's literally how you learn. If you want like really specific things, keep watching. I'll show you a few things. And when we get to the end, I will show you how to get this sweet retro whatever background, awesome background. Okay, so let's start with Cygwin. Say you want to do it Linux style. You're old school, or you're in a school and they say we're going to use Linux everywhere, and you've got to come to our lab to program because we have Linux, or install Linux on your own machine, or go get a whatever environment, install Linux on your Windows computer through a virtual machine and hog all your hard drive space. And then no, don't do that. Do not install a whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. Don't. It's not worth it. You can just do Cygwin. It's like natively fast. So the first thing you're going to want to do is check some stuff out. Oh yeah, this is kind of important. If you're doing it on Linux, you're going to need to know bash commands. And how do you learn those? Do I need to teach you all of them, or can you just Google? I mean, you're watching this on the internet, so I'm guessing you have the internet. So Google. You wonder what ls does? Here's a hot tip of how to find out. You figure it out. All right. So ls lists your files. And yeah, you can just see all these. There's tons of them. So if you want to see cheat sheets of them, have at it. Okay, I just revealed the biggest secret of programmers. I mean, if you're not a programmer, you probably think that programmers like have spent a lot of time studying and figured things out. Yes, they have. And they have some kind of secret knowledge. No, they don't. They've Googled it. They spend a lot of time Googling. When they have a question, they Google it. And if you don't get the answer, you're not asking the right question because it's probably out there. If you run into something that is not on Google, then you're into the hard programming. And that's pretty rare. Only I get it that far. All right, touch updates the timestamp on a file, or if a file doesn't exist, it creates it. So that's a pretty useful one. So this .text, for example. Oh, look, I got a file called this.txt. All right, so that's pretty random. Let's make a directory with makedir. That's a pretty important one too. And I'm just going to call it YouTube-vid. So that makes a folder, is what that does. So cd is change directory. So I went to the folder, and if I want to move that this.txt into this folder, I can do let's see, copy or move. Either works. Let's do move. Go back a directory with ... and then a slash this.txt. And where are we moving it to? Where we already are. I think that's right. Let's see. Did I do it right? Yeah, I did it right. Yeah, just a dot is where you are. So if you put dot, you don't need to do that usually. But I don't know. Let's make a C++ file. So I'm going to make a main file. I'm going to open it. Here's a cool trick. If you have Visual Studio Code and you're using Cygwin because you want to do that Linux environment thing. Oh, how do you get Visual Studio Code? Oh, I don't know. It's so hard. It's gonna be a lot of explaining. I like. There's just so much, man. I don't know how to get it. It's one of the most difficult. Just kidding. Yeah, you know. If you haven't figured out already that I'm pretty much just going to tell you to Google everything instead of explaining it. Eat some sarcasm. That's what. All right. So I touched a main.cpp file, which means one now exists. Another thing you're going to want to learn, and this is actually kind of hard, I will admit, is make files. How do you learn how to use make files? Make files. How to? I found make to be a little, okay, make files are actually really simple. There's only a few things you actually need to know, but it seems like every guide overcomplicates it, and I feel like every C++ guide sort of overcomplicates it too. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it, but I'm giving you the answers, so you can't complain that much. Well, anyway, back to that Visual Studio Code thing that I got sidetracked on. You can type code to launch Visual Studio Code, and if you want to open the folder you're in, you can, I think it's just /. Yeah. And that'll open the folder you're currently in into Visual Studio Code. And you can open individual files the same way, like so. And it'll just pop up in a new tab. So that's a cool way you can kind of integrate these two together, at least on Windows. I don't know how well terminal things work on other OSs and with other things. I can't speak to that. I know it doesn't do it on like Linux, or I don't know, it might do it on Linux. I don't know. You can probably, there's probably a way to do it. You can Google it if you want to figure it out. There's probably a way. All right, so we got our main.cpp. So I'm going to show you what everyone shows you. Every time they're like, hey, so you want to learn C++? Hey, what? I'll show you something. I'll show you something super cool. Hello world. Hello world. Except I'm not gonna Google it, motherfucker. Oh yeah, and don't forget your new line. Don't forget your new line. And this is actually a function that returns an int, so you better return an int. An int is an integer. I'm going to return 0. If you don't, then it also doesn't matter. So I don't know. I guess it used to. But a lot of people like to do this thing where they do cn at the end, or cn.get. That way you have to press enter to actually exit the program, because cn.get will just wait for you to enter a character into the console. These cout and cn, it's console in, console out, so they run on your consoles. std is not for standard templated disease. It's standard. It just stands for standard. If you never want to type them, you can do. It's a namespace thing. If you want to learn about namespaces, you can Google it. It's not really that important right at the very beginning, but eventually you'll learn more about them. I'm not going to get into that because this is just way too new for that. All right, so we could run this. This is a complete enough program to run. So if we go back to Cygwin, you can compile it with G++. If you wonder what version of G++ you have, you can do G++ -v, and it'll tell you all about the version. Look at that. Okay, that's cringy. All right, let's see. Thread model, POSIX GCC version 7.4. This is sort of important sometimes if you're doing advanced things and need to know what version you're on or what you can do, as C++ is still being developed and features are being added. So I can compile this with G++, and I want to compile my main.cpp, and it'll just do it. That's literally all you need to do to compile your first program. So this is a program that can run on your computer. Any computer, you can compile it on any computer. Another thing about C++, the compiler is generally version specific to your hardware. I'm not saying that right, but it compiles based on your hardware. So if you go to another machine, you can't just drag this executable over on a flash drive and run it. You gotta take the source code and recompile it. That way it compiles for their machine, and that way it can be optimized. C++ optimizes as it compiles. That's the super cool thing about it. You don't get that with Java. Java, you get a just-in-time compiler, or a JIT compiler, also known as a shit compiler. C# does that too. That's why they're so slow. Don't take this too seriously. I'm sort of just ragging on them. But that part is true. They do compile at runtime, and that's why you need Java runtime environment in .NET for your. I don't know exactly what C# is, but .NET is something to do with it. I'm sure someone will rail me in the comments about it, like they did on my last programming video. All right, so you can run your executable within / and then the name of the program. Also, you can press Tab to autocomplete if there's no other viable option. It's going to pick the one that's there. All right, so we get exactly what we console outed, and it's now sitting here at this cn.get and waiting for us. That's why it hasn't exited yet. So if we press enter, it will exit. So for example, if we comment this out, comments the slashes, of course, you'll figure that out in your first tutorial, and run it again, it's going to do the exact same thing. Oh, that might be confusing. Why is it still waiting for it when it's commented out? If you already know the answer, you're ahead of the curve. We have to recompile it. We're still on the same one. So we have to do this G++ thing again and do main.cpp again, and it'll recompile it now with that commented out. So it'll just exit right away, right back to the console. There we go. Okay, so that's a way you can get started working with Cygwin. You can use whatever editor you want. You don't have to use Visual Studio Code, but I feel like it integrates very nicely, and it has add-ons, and so it's a very nice one. It's probably the best in my opinion. I'd rate it number 1 as far as open source editors go. All right, so that's how you do it with Cygwin. So what if you're using Visual Studio? Well, expect hold on, before I go to Visual Studio, I'm going to show you something else about Cygwin that's like sort of obscure, but sort of important. Let me see my downloads here. Okay, so when you download this setup for Cygwin and run it, you get this, and this is also how you update Cygwin. This is how you install new packages on Cygwin as you run this executable again. So hang on to it, or you can just go download it again. It doesn't matter. And there's another spoiler in this downloads thing. Don't look. All right. So hit next, hit next. Don't change any of these options. If you mess around changing these options, I can't help you, and I don't care. So don't ask me for help if you change the default options. And yeah, you just hit next until it does this. Read through them if you want. Basically, you can do special things with Cygwin to set it up in a special way, but You don't have to. It's 100% optional. So you get to this point. This is a little confusing at first. You have a view here of what you're looking at. It starts out with pending. So anytime you run this, it's going to check your current Cygwin install and see what you need to update, and it's just going to update anything that's out of date. So you want to run this every once in a while, or run it when you start a computer, whatever you want to do. But you can go to this and look at different things. Like let's look at, you probably want to look at not installed and search for like G++. These are additional ones that I don't need, but if you do this, you'll get a GCC one, and this is the one you need to compile like I'm compiling. So unless you need something special, you also probably want to go ahead and get make, and let's see, you probably want CMake. You might not need it. I don't have it right now. You probably want automake, and you probably want make. You definitely need make, and you might as well get automake. Some things rely on it, and there may be other things, but this is how you go get packages is the point. And then after you check what you want, I don't know, for example, I don't know, let's do something new. I'll go ahead and get CMake. You click on the bin right here. No, you don't. You click on this drop down and you click on which one you want, and you'll see you get some stuff here. Do you want the source code for it? No, I don't want the source code. But if you do, you can do it. There you go. You just hit next. It picks everything it needs and installs it for you, and your Cygwin is set up with new stuff. So if you're missing something, it tells you you're missing something when you're trying to do something on Cygwin. You can go do that. All right, on to Visual Studio now. So if you're using Visual Studio to do your C++ project, you get this after you finally install it. You probably just want to do create a new project, and you can do a console app or an empty project. We're going to do a console app. And yeah, okay. So this starter package doesn't matter a whole lot, because once you're in your program, you can change things and do whatever you want. So it's not like you have to stick to whatever they start you out with. And you get a basic guide. You know, there's kind of the thing we did in Cygwin. Over here on your left side, this is not a folder structure. I know it looks like one, but it's not. This is actually like special directories. Like if you go to where this is, you will not see these folders. So this is like a special sort that Visual Studio does. If you want to see real folders, I think you got to click Show All Files. Yeah. So this is what's actually in your folder. It's just this one CPP file. And there's probably stuff up above it, but this is like your main project. So yeah, this is just like a sort. So eventually, if you stay like this and you keep adding stuff and doing stuff, eventually when you do go to your folder, you'll just see a giant list of files with no folders, and it's really ugly. So I usually actually recommend going to this Show All Files and making some folders on your own, add a new folder, and then doing stuff like this and rename it, all this source maybe, etc., etc. And you can still go back to this view and see them in this special sort if you want to, even after you have your own special setup. All right, so this is the same thing. It tells you some getting started stuff. I'm just going to hit play. I'm in debug. I'm in x86. That's fine, I guess, but you can do different versions too, and it does it. Tells you some more crap. Press any key to close this window. Okay, so what if we do a standard cn.get like we did in our other one? Notice they're also not returning anything. Is that like a new thing? Why is this int even here then? Honestly, it should be void. If you're not returning anything, it's void. You'll learn that too as you start making more functions. So sort of a weird thing, if you ask me, but whatever. As you see, it stopped us again, just the same. And we hit enter and it should continue. I guess they've got this special thing where it's press any key to continue. I think this is because debug is on. I think it does this just to help you debug. So if we switch this to release, we'll probably have something else happen. All right, here we are. We'll press our enter. Nope, still does the same thing. So there's how you can get started with C++ programming on Windows. And if you want to go further, I highly recommend just Googling it. Just Google Learn C++. I've probably already given you the first 1 or 2 tutorials that you'll find, so you can skip to the next part where they teach you about, I don't know, variables, like stuff like characters, and integers, and whatever, doubles, float. So in any of these, you'll figure it out soon, but the type, the name, if you want to include more libraries and stuff to play around with, more packages, you do it at the top. And I'm not going to go any further than that, but I do want to show you one last thing as a little bonus. This is still going. God, CMake is huge, or my internet's slow. I don't know which one. But let's go ahead and launch Siglin. It's probably going to bug out my little installer thing, but I don't care. So we're going to go in that folder. We have our main. I want to teach you about Makefiles, so I'm going to touch a Makefile, and now there's a Makefile in there. And let's just go ahead and code up this Makefile. And the cool thing about Makefiles, you don't need to know this if you're doing it on Windows normally. This is more of a Linux thing. Also, there's this program called CMake. It's actually the one I'm installing. That makes these for you, so you don't necessarily need to know it. These can be super nice if you're doing your own project, and it's like you have your own little setup. Basically, this is sort of like we'll call it a build file, but it's actually more of a bash command runner. It just runs, like all these little things I'm typing in bash over here. Makefiles just run a bunch of those basically, and whatever you want. And it's sort of intended to build programs, but you could do anything with it. You could just run bash commands. So if you learn bash really well, you probably want to learn make, because make you can like program up bash stuff. But there's also just bash files for that too. So one thing you learn after a while is there's like a million different ways of doing everything. It's like, oh, you can do it this way or that way or that way. So which is best? I don't know. Let's waste a whole week trying to figure out the best way, or we could just get it done. That's one of my pet peeves to all this stuff, actually, is that there's just so many ways to do the same thing, and it's hard to figure out which is the best one. And the best one is usually the one that actually gets it done. So you have to sit there and contemplate. You're doing it wrong. Just pick one and go for it. If it doesn't work, try a different. Then you try a different one. All right, Makefiles. How do you make a Makefile? Like if I want to make a Makefile, so make's the program that runs these, and you just type make, and it'll run whatever Makefiles in the folder you're in. So if I type make right now, it'll execute the Makefile that's in this folder, this one. And so you do like a name of something and a colon, and then the files you want it to look at. So I want this to look at my CPP, and then down below you tab over. This has to be a tab. If it's spaces, it won't work. So you gotta make sure it's actually a tab. Tab over and type in the command. We know it's G++ and main.cpp. So if I type make, it'll look at my main.cpp, and if it has been updated since the last time I ran make, it'll run this command. So the cool thing it does is it checks if your files have been updated since the last time you ran make. And that way you don't redundantly build the same thing over and over. So if I type make, it'll build it. If I type make again, it'll apparently build it again. I don't know. I don't know if it's actually building it again. I think it actually did. It shouldn't though. Very interesting. Let's make another file. Secondary little file here. It's another CPP. I'm not going to talk about headers today. And let's say this just holds a function called bacon. And it just prints bacon or something. Put a new line there. And of course this uses C out, so we're going to include IO stream. So we have a function called bacon in this file. And we also want to compile it and compile it on this. Now you can also do .o or -o here and give your file a different name, like I want to name it prog, for example. Now instead of a.executable, it's going to be prog.exe, and it's going to use these two files to build it. So now I'm going to type make and watch it go. And we'll see prog.exe. We're going to remove our a.out, and we'll make again. So now we've got to run prog.exe, and we get the same thing. So, oh, here's last tip, I promise, and then I'm done. All right, finish this. You might yell at me because I'm having it open already. Oh well. All right. Last tip. Just open this whole folder. COD. Typed COD. Get rid of this. So just open this whole folder in Visual Studio. That way we can see. So if you want to use something from another CPP, usually you do it through a header structure. But another way you can do it is you can just, if it's something you're compiling with, you can say there's this extern void bacon function, and you just tell it about it, and then you can just call bacon. Bet you didn't know that. Alright, let's remake this thing. Run prog. And we get bacon. Cool. Well, alright, I'm done. So I promised I would tell you how to get this cool background. Well, I will tell you. There it is. It's from wallhaven.cc. Wallhaven.cc, not sponsored. It's just basically a bunch of awesome wallpapers. So enjoy. Okay. Well, I'm out. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to have a good day.